Let's talk about something we all know, that deep down feeling of dread when we think too far ahead. We're going to get into why, exactly, your brain seems to be hardwired to hate the future.
I mean, seriously, have you ever felt that knot in your stomach just thinking about next year or even next week? Planning for the future is supposed to be this exciting thing, right? So why does it so often feel like it's just riddled with stress and anxiety?
Well, here's a wild thought that might just flip how you see everything. What if the future isn't actually the bad guy here? What if the real issue is that our brains are running on some, let's say, seriously old-school programming, software that was designed for a world that just doesn't exist anymore?
And that leads us right to our first big idea. That feeling, that anxiety, it's a signal for sure, but it's a signal that we are constantly, and I mean constantly, misreading.
You know the feeling. Our gut reaction is to treat that anxiety like a blaring red alarm. We feel it, and our mind immediately jumps to, oh no, something terrible is about to happen. It feels like our brain is giving us a sneak peek of some coming disaster.
But, and this is the absolute key, what if that anxiety isn't a prediction of danger at all? What if it's just the natural tension that comes from a total lack of predictability? See, your brain is, at its core, a threat detection system. And for this ancient system, anything it can't predict gets automatically flagged as a potential threat. It's just your brain trying to complete a forecast that is literally impossible to finish.
Okay, so that gets us to the why. To really get a handle on this biological reflex, we've got to rewind the clock way back and look at our brain's original job description from tens of thousands of years ago.
Now, check out the contrast here. It's pretty stark. The hunter-gatherer brain was built to solve immediate, tangible problems. Like, is that a lion in the bushes? Where are we going to find food tonight? But now, we're asking that exact same brain to wrap its head around abstract ideas like a 5-year career plan. And to make things worse, the modern world just floods us with information, creating this illusion that we should be able to predict the future. And every single time we can't, our brain logs it as a failure and just cranks up the anxiety.
This massive mismatch creates this fascinating little glitch in our thinking called temporal discounting. It's basically our brain's default setting to always prioritize the now over the later. I mean, it makes sense, right? A bird in the hand was worth 2 in the bush for our ancestors because tomorrow was never ever guaranteed. And that exact code is still running in the background of every choice we make.
Okay, let me make this super real for you. Imagine I walked up to you and offered you 70 pounds, cold, hard cash, right now.
Or you could wait 3 months and get 100 pounds. So what do? Well, study after study shows that a mind-blowing 80% of people take the 70 quid now. That is temporal discounting in action. The immediate reward just feels so much more valuable to our survival-focused brain, even when we logically know it's less money.
And this idea builds in a really fascinating way. It's not just that we devalue the future, it's that we literally don't even recognize the person who's supposed to live there. And this is where it gets a little bit weird.
This quote just nails the whole issue. So, neuroscientist Dr. Hal Hershfield put people inside fMRI brain scanners. He found that when we think about our present self, this one part of the brain, the medial prefrontal cortex, lights up like a Christmas tree. It's our me center. But when he asked them to think about their future self, that area went quiet. It looked exactly the same as when they thought about a complete stranger. So, neurologically speaking, the person you will be in 10 years, your brain thinks that's somebody else.
Which brings us to this idea of future self-continuity. You can think of it as a measurement of how connected you feel to that stranger in the future. If that connection is weak, well, you're much more likely to make choices for right now, procrastinating, spending money you shouldn't. But when you find ways to strengthen that connection, you naturally start acting in ways that benefit that future person.
So let's put it all together. The future feels deeply uncertain, and the person who lives there feels like a total stranger. So where does our brain turn? It defaults to the only thing it knows for sure, the cozy comfort of right now.
This is a well-known cognitive bias called the status quo bias. Basically, our brain is programmed to see the current situation, the status quo, as the safest bet. Any change from that baseline isn't just seen as different, it's processed in our brain as a potential loss. And we are way more motivated to avoid a loss than we are to achieve a gain.
And you see this absolutely everywhere. It's why so many of us just stick with the default retirement plan at work, even if it's not the best one. It's why we don't bother to switch car insurance, even when we know we could save money. The mental energy and the perceived risk of making a change just feels like it costs more than the potential reward down the line. Sound familiar?
And yeah, brain scans totally back this up. Sticking with the default option is neurologically cheap. It's easy. But to override that, to choose something new, your brain has to fire up all these energy-guzzling regions, like the prefrontal cortex, to consciously make a different choice. It is a literal uphill battle against your own brain's desire to save battery power. So, after hearing all this, what are we supposed to do? Well, maybe the most important mental shift we can make is to realize this isn't some flaw in your character, it's actually a feature of your brain's design.
Your brain isn't broken or lazy. Not at all. It is a perfectly designed survival machine. The only problem is we're asking this ancient hardware to run in a world where the future has become way too abstract, just too big. That anxiety you feel, that's just the system using an old survival tool for a totally new kind of challenge.
So if you remember one thing, let it be this. The future has no sensory data. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it with your body to confirm that it's safe. Your ancient brain sees this total lack of information and treats it as a threat, so it fills that empty space with worst-case scenarios. That anxiety is not a warning that your future is doomed. It's just a signal telling you that you have reached the absolute edge of what you can predict and control.
Okay, so if we can't just change our ancient wiring, how do we work with it? How do we actually start to bridge that gap between our present self and that stranger we call our future self? Well, here's a really powerful three-step framework. First, you have to make that future stranger less of a stranger. Get super specific about who you are in the process of becoming. Second, you have to change the question you ask yourself when you're at a crossroads. It's no longer, what do I feel like doing right now? It's, what would the person I am becoming do in this situation? And third, and this is the game changer, you don't just act for them, you act as them. You start to embody that identity today.
Look, this whole process isn't about trying to perfectly predict or control the future. We've already established that that's what causes all the anxiety in the first place. Instead, this is about building a stronger, more vivid, more real relationship with the person you are creating, one choice at a time. You're simply making them less of a stranger.
Because in the end, your future self isn't some random person you're going to meet one day down the road. They are the sum total of every tiny little decision you make, starting right now. So the real question isn't, what does the future hold for me? It's, who am I actively building today?